The book was written, it's got a lot of certainly not that too, but thinking of giving them as what it as an certainly would spend it a lot of people. I look at it in the area. This is something I presented to you guys. So I think we're with that has to be done and shut it. There's no sports. That's broken. Even make it for, then we just kind of give it to them. I'll be honest with you, about it's a one finger. He's on the chin of it, but they total chin, open. Open. And then you found it on.
It's very, very informative. This week, all scholarship to students. Appreciate Oh, you want to take it now? Yes. You think you do all the work? Yes, sir. CJ, I'll take it. Yeah. Okay, we're spending time. But it is. So. Error, so the being is that you can check. Civil. And also has to be that. Put that in place. Violence to get a. Are they? We have something to do that. For those that are where there's a check with where certain officer is anything for 30,000. It would be legally involved in that. If you have 30. Hopefully, never. I don't know, Grace, now the volume. It's very true. We it is Commissioner Lucy. Easter, Honorable Sorry, Rio, and
And some people are. We have their children, later. Because we have the voices and their son. So that's the example. Commissioner Conley. Mr. Bowles, Mr. Wheeler, Mr. Rivera, Mr. Pinky, that are not listed, those we would, and we have been one of their. They just. That are not listed, those we would, and we have been one of their.
Our County Annex, the phase.
Is to facilitate repairs to the building. This is the annex. Commissioner Lissy.
We got these, extensions of existing contractual services.
Yeah, they can't hear you.
Existing contractual services from Thornton Thomas City relating to the jail and the, annex building. And so everything is in there, like Jeff explained that when he was here at the last meeting. He said the only thing that would be a little bit different was the post, inspection on the, annex building. And that was changed from being part of the contract to where, when we get to that point, we can vote whether to do it or not, whether to have the post inspection.
I didn't get a copy of that.
He sent you an email.
Got it.
You get a copy of it? I don't know.
What's the total price proposed?
Oh, it was, on the jail or the,
This item is for the annex.
okay. And he said if we have any questions, he's in the office, call him, and he could answer them.
Yeah.
May I ask a question? Judge, didn't we not, okay, on page, I guess, page 4 of 6, it's got the schedule of the fees. we didn't ever think about, we were gonna do the post-construction, did we? Or James, you remember?
No, I don't. Right here, what we're looking at phase 2 and phase 3.
I'm on 4 of 6.
What are you looking at, Commissioner?
The schedule for the fees. Says repair, post-construction periodic inspection fees, and this is basic fee. Field investigation is $12,000. Repair design
That's phase
to be
3.
determined,
That's phase 3, right?
4.
Oh, that's phase 4?
Phase, he's asking phase, not
Oh,
page.
phase, yes, phase 3. Yeah, I'm sorry, I thought you, what
No,
page?
I'm sorry.
And then the grading system and drainage system was 105,500. The construction administration time and expense not to exceed 24,000. And the post-construction periodic inspection not to go over 35, the maximum 4 visits.
And is all of this paid to Thornton Tomasetti, or is some of this paid to Jeff Chapman?
I
Judge, I would say it's a Thornton because that's coming from Thornton. That's what I would imagine.
Yeah, because there's another page that says national billing rates, and it's Thornton Tomasetti's rates.
And then, Mr. Chapman presented 2 weeks ago that he needed more money too. Are you doing anything with that?
Was that was on the jail or the,
Well, all of it.
all of it?
I believe it was both. I think it was the annex and the jail. I think they both had run up to their 10,000 limit. I do believe that's what was said last time.
He reached the cap on them?
Yeah.
Well,
Judge,
Yes, sir.
on the Tomasetti one, I'm looking at the jail, the project description. We're not located 810 Commerce Street.
Well, the agenda item is for the annex.
Okay,
Phase 3 repair, design, and site inspection proposal from Thornton Tomasetti proposes engineering services to facilitate repairs to the building, the annex. We don't have anything on the jail.
okay. I said it was attached to it, I was just. And we have to get a plumber? Is that right, Benny?
Yes.
Is the plumber on our dime, or is that Thornton?
I think it's our dime, I believe, says number, on page 1, it says perform a plumbing leak investigation by plumbing contractor retained by the client.
Okay.
I believe that's what the existing leak that the building has, right?
Yeah. That's what he stated last time.
We need to find that.
We've already done the geotechnical engineering on that, haven't we?
Yes.
remember, guys, did he mention what this project was gonna cost? Like, what, 500,000, 300,000, 800,000 at the end of it, on all the concrete work and everything? Did he mention anything? I don't remember if he did, I'm sorry.
Do you remember if he mentioned anything about that?
Because that's repairing all this, he's gonna
Yes.
pop out all of that. And put a grade to it. The whole all the
that's-
concrete has to come out here,
That's one of
disposed
the
of.
big, causing a lot of our problems there, is
Yeah.
it sloped back into the building.
So that would include all the flower beds, all of that. Commissioner, that would include everything up to the curb? To get the correct tilt? Because that's what it's showing here, all the way to the curb.
Yeah.
Or the outer sidewalk, see that? It's showing to the outer sidewalk, probably that 36-inch sidewalk, or 4-foot sidewalk, I'm not sure what it is. But it's showing a section there.
And then, seems like it goes through the middle of all the sidewalks, right?
Yes,
And then he has that pond, infiltration pond.
There to the north of. Is that it? Right there.
so it'll have a fence, a concrete head wall, and it'll have a splash pad when it gets there.
What was that, James?
When the water leaves the building, it gets right over here.
Right.
That's gonna be all fenced in.
Yes. I think it shows the fence.
It does.
You have a copy of it. You don't have to
No.
look it over me.
This is for the jail.
Oh.
So they're just draining everything that we get on this building all the way underneath and shoot it out there. See that? $4,000 for field investigation. So it doesn't have anything on the repair design here. There's no dollar here on the repair design. But the grading and drainage system designs, 105,000 to design it. So each inspection, they're hitting us at $8,750 per inspection, per visit.
Best of my knowledge, I remember last time he was saying that we don't have to do that. But my question is, if we don't do that,
Right.
is it something that's gonna come back, they're gonna point to if something fails? That's going to limit us from recouping the damage on that again.
Total is up to 35,000 for 4 visits.
As soon as the person that does the designing on it, like the grading and drainage system design, the person that does that design takes full responsibility, because that's the one that does the design, and the contractor just follows his design. Now, the inspection, I understand the inspection to make sure it's being done right, but the design's already set in place, the contractor's gonna do the job, so 8,750 per visit, that's a little high. But I don't remember the conversation, I'm sorry, I don't remember the conversation. He did say that we don't have to do it?
Well, he said we don't have to do those,
post.
but my question is, if we don't do those and they've recommended them, is that gonna be something they're gonna point at us saying we ought to do what we recommended?
Are we liable for it?
Right.
We won't have any reports.
Commissioner? Since there's a couple of questions, do you believe that it'd be best to call Jeff Chapman, each one of us, with the questions that we have?
You want to? He said he's in the office. Call him and talk to him. You want to do it right now?
Oh, I don't know, I didn't know if you wanted to just put it on for the next time and then go ahead and, the only question I have is that one that we're talking about right now. Everything else here, I see what he's doing, I see the design that they're trying to do, hopefully that's why I asked him when he was here if that was warranted, because I don't wanna do this and spend all this, probably, God knows how much it's gonna be, and then we have to reset that building again, sometimes we already know what that's gonna cost us, that's the only thing.
Minimum of $1 million is what his comment was.
I thought that's what I remembered, but I wasn't sure.
Well, this work that he wants to do now, the judge, I believe the basic fees, I mean, that ain't counting number two, because number two is undetermined.
Right,
You're looking at about 180 grand just for that work,
For the design.
for the design.
depending on how, you're including the visits, right?
Yes,
We take the visits out, it's 141.5.
yeah. But I wonder what this the repair, design, non-drainage will run. They got to come with another proposal for that.
On the what, Commissioner?
Number 2, on the basic fees, repair, design, non-drainage,
The repair design?
right here.
Well, yeah. They're not gonna be able, they're gonna say they're not gonna be able to give us an estimate on that. They can give us a roundabout estimate, but because until the grading and then the drainage system is designed and they got something to bid off of. They don't know exactly what they're gonna do yet. They could probably throw us out a number. Commissioner?
What do you think? You wanna,
What I think would be to move it to the next one, because I have a couple of questions, and I know
Okay.
Jeff personally.
and have him
I-
come here so you can
No.
ask him or you can call him?
We could just call him, because it's
Okay.
gonna cost the county more money for him to come
All right,
over
you
here.
wanna table these until,
That would be my opinion, because it sounds like there's questions right now, and to make a motion on this, and I can see we don't fully understand it,
Okay.
it wouldn't be good. What do you think?
I'll move that, we table it until,
We can just leave it alone, it'll, move to the next.
Okay, item number 10, discuss, approve, disapprove Sheriff Department transfer of a 2014 Chevy Silverado pickup to the Maintenance Department. Mr. Montalvo.
Good morning, everybody. We're having conflicts with my crew needing a vehicle to get to Fall City and Runge and the weigh station. My landscaper uses the truck to do these things. And my custodians as well use those trucks to go to Kennedy and to Karnes City and different areas here in town to do their cleaning at the different buildings. So if they have an extra truck there at the sheriff's department, I was hoping to get that truck so we can have a truck there so there's no conflict and it doesn't hinder me from having to pick them up and drop them off and take them and this and that while the truck's being used. It's just sitting there, we can use it. Yeah, I was wondering if I can have a spare truck in my department for my crew.
I'm fine with it. I think that's my concern, chief's back there doing like this. If it runs and you want to use it, I'm fine with that, but I don't think the county needs to sink a whole bunch of money into a 10-year-old vehicle that's been ridden pretty hard for years.
Judge, if I can.
Yes.
What about that Aguilar I pick up?
The ag pickup,
It's the diesels and engine, I think it's just,
that one was repaired. I'm not sure that, I know that they're not using it. I think it was supposed to go into the auction that Road and Bridge had. For whatever reason, it didn't make it into that auction. It's a fairly good truck from what Eric and Megan tell me. I think the concern was it had a death wobble is what Alexander Ford called it. But it was repaired, but I don't believe that it's been driven since then. Do we want to have a $50,000 spare pickup sitting around for for maintenance department?
Well, I took that truck out. I picked it up.
Which
charged-
one? Which one?
The Chevy that
The
I'm
Chevy?
asking for. I picked it up, charged the battery, of course, it was dead, puts it in the tires, cleaned all the components, and took it for a test drive. Purring like a kitten, no problems with the AC, no problems with the tranny. I hooked the trailer up to it, it pulled it with no problems. I took it up and down 181. It's running good.
I don't have a problem with transferring it. My
I mean,
concern
who's to
would
say in the
be
future?
down the road is sinking a bunch of money into a 10-year-old truck.
Yeah, it only has a,
It just, the motor starts racing, it just won't run. So
and then that's what I did, yeah, and I hooked up the trailer to it, and I ran up and down from Fall City to Rungy, took it around, and tried to warm it up with the AC running all this whole time, and it did well. I mean, there's no issue.
What year model is it?
It's 14, got 117,000 miles on it.
Hooked up the computer to it just to see if something's wrong, what's wrong with it?
I wouldn't want to stoke a lot of money into it and tell y'all, okay, if you okay it, then I'll go to go to the next level. But I don't foresee a whole lot of money being dumped into it. But who's to say, it could very well happen, but at this moment, it's running really good and it did not get hot. Like I said, I hooked the trailer up to it. I ran at a high rates of speed up and down the highway safely. Within reason, 70, I was doing the speed limit. And so, it seems to be fairly good.
I don't have a problem with it. I just don't.
So far, all I want to do is just replace a windshield, and other than that,
Judge, my opinion is, on the road and bridge, do y'all have the computer to check that to see what's wrong with it?
I can take it to Napa or AutoZone and have them look at it, or I can just take it to a dealer and spend $100 for them
Or
to
just,
diagnose
you
it.
can take it to my shop, I have all the computers to check it, I can check it personally and I can write down what's wrong with it and everything. You'll be able to tell if something's wrong with the
Yeah.
transmission.
I mean, I have my own, for my own personal one, and it checks for codes, and there's no codes on it right now, so,
It doesn't show any
no
codes?
codes.
Have you tried to run it hot and then check it?
I ran it yes. Yeah, I
Okay,
had that
and still
thing all the way
nothing?
up to the hottest you can get, pulling the trailer, and I ran it.
Give it a shot, right?
I mean, I burned at least a good quarter tank in it, just running and running all over town.
If it goes down, we'll auction it off like that, right? Just auction it off, see what you can get out of it.
Agree.
I'll make the motion to approve item number 10 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising the right hand. All right, anybody opposed to that? Item number 11, discuss, approve, disapprove, passage of game room ordinance prohibiting 8-liner slot machine. Mr. Chapman.
Morning, gentlemen. How are y'all?
Morning.
I want to start out by saying something all of you know, and that is that the local government code draws a sharp distinction between city governors and county governors. And that applies to gambling operations and that's important here because what we're doing here is saying that county gambling organizations, county gambling rooms exclude city gambling rooms. And this happened, what happened in 2023 is the legislature passed an ordinance that said, we're gonna codify how county gambling rooms are gonna be organized. And what this said was, all of you people who've been doing your separate rules for county gambling rules are all gonna do it the same. You're gonna set up way to do it. You're gonna do this many dollars for how you're gonna require people to pay this and this and this and so on and so forth. But they didn't say you're gonna be required to do this. They're saying you can do this. So what I'm asking the court to do is to say, we're not gonna do this. We're gonna pass a plan that says we're gonna do something else. We're gonna do a plan that says we're not gonna have any kind of game room. And that's within the law as is in here because it says, it gives us room to do that. it says, gives us room to say, and we're starting on page, 8, I believe it is, or maybe it's on page, it starts on page 7. Uh, uh, I'm trying to,
Page 6.
6 is where
Start
the,
from page, yeah.
where the law, where all that starts, where okay, no, it's in page 8, where 234, 131 through 231, 136 were amended. And they said that you may require a licensing process. But it didn't say, but the law means, according to the Code Construction Act, that means that you may, you don't have to. I sent an email to and I knew this because of my research. I sent an email to the TAC and also one to the Texas District and County Attorneys Association saying, can you give me a little guidance? Well, the Texas District County Attorneys Association said, we don't mess with this sort of thing. But here are 5 county, what 5 counties have done. And they had sent me 5 counties that had done this sort of thing, this licensing process, and they were all over the map. And this 2023 law was meant to put all of them in one ball of wax with one kind of law. But it doesn't require anybody to do that. So what I'm saying is, all of these this law says if you're going to have these game rooms, here's the uniform way to do it. Well, we don't want game rooms. So we don't want to do it that way. We want to get those game rooms out of Karnes County. So what I've done is draft an ordinance with a system of trying to get them out of Karnes County. What's the system? Well, here's the problem. We have tried to use shutting down these game rooms. The problem is you send in a confidential informant to look over and over and over until you find somebody who's getting paid a lot of money. I know of one example, just happened upon it because I was visiting a friend who had a friend there who got a $10,000 payout and enough to buy a pickup with it. And but you run out of informants. The sheriff's department has frankly run out of informants. That's why they haven't been shutting these places down lately. You can't get people in there that the game rooms don't know. And it's just a problem. So the way to do it that I came up with is go in and find a way to go in and then shut them down with a civil action, which is a petition for gosh, where am I? Well, no, we're going to get them with a penal action, but we're going to get them for I've got too many pages in here. A
Your civil penalty.
The civil penalty is, they're gonna go in and.
Take
and
possession.
we're gonna go in to get a preliminary, we're gonna get a preliminary injunction, not an injunction, but we seeking an injunction, but preliminary restraining order. as a way of getting to an injunction to close them down permanently. But we get a preliminary injunction and to shut them down. And then we will also, we start getting a rule, what's called Rule 202, civil discovery. Normally, in a civil case, you can't start getting discovery till after the lawsuit is filed. But under Rule 202 of the Rules of Civil Procedure, you can start getting depositions before the lawsuit is filed if you have good reason to. And if you have a reason to want to get to know why you want to file the lawsuit. And what we want to know is, do we want to go forward and get a lawsuit to shut them down by reason of a full injunction? Do we want to go in and get damages somehow? And in the meantime, those places will be shut down permanently. And those places will be shut down permanently. Then what we would like to do is close the doors of those buildings while all of this is going down. I'm afraid that would be unconstitutional. We can't close a person's property down permanently. What I've come up with is to close those buildings down for 36 hours. And then it can be, the owner can reopen it for constitutional purposes. They can't reopen it for gambling. And so what reasons can we come up with to go in there? Number one, if the building has never been used for gambling, we've got to go in the same old way. We've got to get a warrant, and that's just the law. If people have got a sign out in front of it saying, come on in, we're using 8-liners, we want you to come in and gamble with us, we don't need any excuse to go in there. That's an invitation to the public to come in and gamble. And finally, I think that if they've been raided a couple times within the last 2 years, it constitutes an invitation to go in and at least look in the machines to see if they're gambling right now. So those are the reasons to go in and see if we can get a preliminary right to go in and close the place down and get names and addresses of the people that are in there. Now, why do we want to do this? Those people, the increase in crime is on the face of the cases that we see coming out of these places. When you see that security guards have AK-15s in their possession, sawn-off shotguns, other illegal weapons. I'm not just talking about guns, pistols or rifles or things like that. I'm talking about things that are illegal, period. Not just things that you would take out to the rifle range or out hunting, but I mean guns that are just scary. There have been, as Michelle will tell you, we've had 2 instances in the last few years of burglaries up and down Bond Street. And fortunately, we've had a Kennedy police officer move in across the street from her, and we've had some officers that have been good enough to drive up and down our street. And of course, you know, people are afraid of Michelle anyway. But at any rate, it's just, I just think the crime that's come into this town, before this courthouse was restored and we had county court in that little area upstairs, and that was 18 years ago, we didn't have near the number of cases that we have now when we come in this courtroom. When I was a defense lawyer in front of Judge Kendall, the number of cases that we would come into, and we'd walk in that little office with Mr. Busselman and Judge Kendall was nothing like we have now. It's just nothing. And then when, it still wasn't much when we first hit the boom, and now it's exploded. And it's just exploded at the same amount of time as those places have increased. So I'm asking you to vote in favor of this ordinance, and I'll take any questions you want to ask.
Thank you, David. Discussion from the court?
Trooper Bailey, would you like to say something?
Trooper Bailey,
Yeah.
that'd be nice.
Out of curiosity, the current administration, but, just to kind of back up what David is saying, over the last 10 years, when the game room started showing up in Karnes County, we've conducted about 25 criminal investigations. David talked about informants. We use informants. We brought undercover officers from other agencies, the state. The comptroller has come here, worked them. We have done organized crime cases on a bunch of these game rooms. We filed also the rest of them in county court. So we've utilized a wide variety. We have tracked money to Houston. We have done a lot of different organizations. We work for the DA's office, the county attorney's office to do this. The investigations we did have revealed what David talked about, people carrying AR-15s. We have video out of these game rooms that people are sitting at slot machines with pistols in their belts. They're doing prostitution, drugs. We found drugs in these places. They're stealing cars from there. We had a game room on the hill here where the owner was pistol whipped while operating the actual game room. So there's been a wide variety of that. The most frustrating thing about all of this is that all of these game rooms we've shut down, we've seized their actual game boards and their property. They have a gigantic warehouse in Laredo, Texas, where they bring more game rooms and just restock, basically like HEB does. So we have a sheriff's office full of game rooms right now, game room boards that we haven't sold yet. But over the last 10 years, the county attorney's office and DA's office have worked with us to go after these people. Now, with that being said, what's the solution? We asked David and Jennifer to help us try to put an ordinance together. The city of Kennedy, the city of Karnes City, both adopted ordinances. They shut them all down. That put a stop to it. Boom, the end of it. You don't see it anymore. That's what we want to do in Karnes County. Now, the controversial side of this is you have some senior citizens and some other people in the county that say, this is my enjoyment, this is my pleasure. I go out there and play the game rooms. So we get a lot of feedback, pushback on that. But would you want one of your senior citizens in there and have some guy pistol whip you or shoot you or do something like that? And then the other controversy is that the sheriff's office makes money off of this. Let me tell you how this works. Whatever money is seized in those game rooms is taken to a forfeiture account in Falls City Bank, okay? That money's not Karnes County, it's not the sheriff's office. Once it's adjudicated, whether in county court or district court, that money could be given back to the person we took it from, or it could be seized and given to the state, county attorney, and the sheriff's office, and that's how it is. People say, well, y'all made a lot of money on this deal. We didn't make it, it was awarded to us, okay? And that's how the law works.
They keep some, they give us
Absolutely.
some.
We've had cases where an attorney would come back and say, this guy sold a building for $100,000, had the money on him, we gave the money back to him. And that's the way it is. But this thing has been a constant battle. You drive up and down the road, you see these game rooms, you see people there. There's a lot of people coming from out of the other counties. The majority of the people that are arrested or ticketed or the people we arrested in the game room are not from Karnes County, just so y'all know. These are not local people that are doing this. A lot of this is organized crime. But like I said, and be able to prove that and go that way, we've done that several times. So we've got 20 or 25 good cases on the books where we actually put people in jail and did these things. But if you want to nip this in the bud, pass this ordinance. This is what's going to stop it. Because law enforcement from everywhere is doing that. You look in these neighboring counties, they're doing that, and we need to do it in Karnes County just to stop it. So David, do you want to add anything or Sharon?
One other thing, there's a strong court decision lately that says it's a slot machine, it's a lottery, it's unconstitutional under the Texas Constitution. They just can't do it. It's just, it's unconstitutional as much as anything you can imagine that is unconstitutional. It's as if there's a constitutional provision that the commissioner's court has to do something as a court, and one of the commissioners says, well, I'm going to do that by myself, without seeing whether the rest of the court goes along with it. That's unconstitutional. And this is unconstitutional. And a court has said that up in Fort Worth, and the Texas Supreme Court has gone along with it.
One other note, folks, is this not only happening in Karnes City. We have had game rooms in all 4 towns, just so you know. So we've been in Runge, we've been all over the place, all in the county. So this is not picking on one set of folks. I received a little feedback this morning about that. We're just picking on the people in Karnes City. It has nothing to do with Karnes City. This is a county-wide problem, and it needs to be stopped because of the crime that's associated with it. I'll be welcome to answer any questions if any of y'all have any.
Last night, I was looking some stuff up in like Nueces County. They had a big issue there too. And they had about 30 game rooms that tried to be permitted there. They had a permitting process. And then, but yet they gave certain stipulations where they only could operate like 8 to 10 at night.
Blanco counties is similar to that.
And then, and some were mainly, they used the fire marshal as a way in all the time to do a safety check. They had to use the health and safety rule. And they also couldn't be within 1,500 feet of each other. They put it was all part of
Schools,
chapter 47.
churches.
Right,
Yeah.
you could put that in an ordinance. That's what the cities have done. When I was
Yeah.
in the city council, that's what we did.
But they ended up having only, out of the 30, only 3 or 6, I think, actually came back and
There's some
did.
opinions in the group that you can walk in there any day of the week because it's a game and it's illegal. Well, just so you know, and David alluded to some of this in the ordinance, in the state of Texas, it's not illegal to operate a game room. What's illegal is when you hand out the proceeds for it. When the game rooms first came to Karnes County, and I won't point anyone out individually, but if you went in there and you wanted a deal, they give you a bar of soap or a Dr. Pepper or a bag of Cheetos, and that was your actual prize. Now, under the law, does that say, the law says anything of value, okay? So is a bag of Cheetos value? But the cases that we've done, we sent undercover officers in there with a video machine, and when it came out and started paying out customers, we got all that on tape. And that's how we made these 25 cases in the last 10 years on closing these game rooms down. It wasn't on a bag of Cheetos. Some people think we all just picking on them. No, they're handing out money. You know, we seized $90,000 that was going to Houston on an organized crime deal. So there's a lot of money in these game rooms, but there's also a lot of crime also. So,
Drugs, there's a lot of nefarious things that go along with it.
any other questions? Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
The reason I asked Trooper Bailey was, I spoke to him outside a while ago, and he brought some things up that I thought he might want to.
Thank you. Yeah, my only concern was that legitimate businesses could operate. My example I gave was like if Chuck E. Cheese wanted to come here. I don't think anybody has a problem with Chuck E. Cheese. We all have a problem with illegal gambling. I agree 100%. That was my only question, to make sure that we weren't excluding
It
any
doesn't
legitimate
exclude
businesses.
it, and I think that he has that in there. It was Shelby's
Yeah, but I
favorite
haven't-
word this morning, fuzzy animal.
The animal ordinance.
The fuzzy animal.
Right, I spoke with
Yeah.
the county attorney, assistant county attorney briefly this morning, but have not got to see.
Bring on the skee ball. Come in on the skee ball.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Any other questions?
David, Ms. Chapman, was this include like Fall City and Rungy and Gillette, everybody in the whole county?
The whole county except Karnes City and Kennedy, they're the only ones who have passed city ordinances.
Can we enforce Rungy and Fall City?
Yes.
Okay.
Is
They're
that
not-
because they haven't
they're not-
put forth something?
They're not unincorporated.
They are incorporated, I checked that.
They're incorporated, but
They're
Karnes City and
incorporated
Kennedy are
cities, but they
unincorporated.
have not, not passed ordinances, and therefore, they're part of the county, and according to the law, we can, as a county government, we can enforce this. If they want to, my opinion as to what we can do, if they get uncomfortable with this ordinance, they can come back to this court and say, we opt out. We want these people in our
Right.
part of the county, and that's the way I think y'all should approach it.
Right.
Because, and
Is that written in here?
what?
Is that written in here?
No.
It doesn't need to be. They can come and they can object and
That's
down the
what-
line and they
yeah.
can say,
I just think
hey,
that's.
we want to have game rooms in the municipality of Fall City or
I
Rungy.
did, way back when I started on things, I talked to somebody in Fall City, and they just loved the idea of this ordinance. So, but somebody in the government over there.
What about, I mean, is it game rooms and eight liners, or is it like church bingo? Is it bingo? I mean,
It excludes bingos.
It does?
Yeah.
It doesn't include that?
No.
Okay. I'm just trying to make sure, because
And, you know, so, anyway, I didn't understand you.
It's good, David. He asked about bingos. This doesn't have anything to do with bingos. This doesn't.
At the present time, the only places these game rooms exist are in the county. There is one that appears to be in Kennedy, I understand, but it's not. It's just because of the way the city limits are strangely drawn. It's actually in the county.
Yes.
You know about that, don't you? So,
Any other questions or discussion for
What
Mr.
about
Chapman?
gaming devices in like convenience stores?
so what now?
Gaming devices in convenience stores. There's lots of stores that have a few eight-liners in them. They have
Those
quarter machines where you,
This is not, we're talking about the devices that pay you back that are slot machines. This is dealing with slot machines that pay large prices. The definitions generally cover what an amusement redemption machine on page 3 is and this is straight out of the statute. It's electronic, electromechanical, or mechanical device that returns, that you pay into, that gives you a wholesale value, redeemed, gives you something back with a wholesale value available from a single play of the game in an amount not more than 10 times the amount charged to play the game, or $5, whichever amount is less.
I think Commissioner Lissy's question was, say that I owned a convenience store and I sold beer, soda water, chips, anything that any convenience store, a Valero or Diamond Shamrock would sell. Gas outside. If that convenience store had 1 or 2 or 5 or 8 machines in there, could the county enforce this ordinance on that convenience store? Would it be labeled as, could it be labeled as a game room if they're paying out there? I mean, I think the answer is yes.
The answer to that is yes. It means a for-profit business located in a building, place, or structure, permanent or temporary, that contains 8 liners.
Okay,
That's
that answers it.
top of page 4.
Thank you.
Well, I had a convenience store and I had
Right.
about 2 or 3 8-liners in it at one time. And you could not redeem any alcohol, tobacco. And they didn't pay cash, it paid tickets like a Chunky Cheese. But they could use the tickets to purchase merchandise in the store. They weren't paid cash.
Well, these places don't generally have alcohol or merchandise or anything. It's just the games in it. And I just, we're after the machines. We don't care about anything else or what else is with it or whether people are smoking or drinking or what they're doing. They're in there for the,
If
going
you were
into.
operating it like a
What?
Chuck, if you were operating it like a Chuck E. Cheese to where they got tickets and they redeemed them for merchandise, then that's legal, right?
I don't think so, because that merchandise has
Has
a
value.
value attached to it.
Well, so does the merchandise at Chuck E. Cheese.
I'm
Judge,
not arguing Chuck E. Cheese, Bill.
Judge
I'm
Chuck
just
E.
telling you what this is.
May I say this? Chuck E. Cheese has been, the courts have avoided talking about Chuck E. Cheese. And Chuck E. Cheese is legal according to the legislature. And it's probably legal according to the Constitution. And it's probably constitutional. But these places are slot machines, and that's what's illegal under the Constitution. But even the courts won't say it, whether they're legal or illegal, they'll say they're unconstitutional. And the courts are funny places.
Robert, what was it you saying?
Situations like you mentioned, that business, they normally give you coupons or they'll give you a token to go put back in their machine. So that's basically tokens on the law, as the law is, or worthless. You know, it's like, they're not considered a coin or currency, but they give you tokens to go back and put back into their pool table, pinball machine, whatever they want to do. So that's how Chuck E. Cheese and the legislature has written it. If they give you a token, because again, is winning that prize a thing of value or not? That's arguable in court, but they normally give you non-denomination tokens to put back in their vending machines. And that's how they get by with that. They're not handing out dollar bills, not handing out 20, things like that.
Tickets.
Tickets or tokens, yes. And
Tickets worth so many points,
absolutely. And is that ticket worth anything of value? No.
but you can exchange them for merchandise that they have in the,
Yeah. And to answer your question about your business and your machine, if someone would complain to law enforcement and they go in there and conduct an investigation and found that instead of just tickets that you were given a $20 bill under the table, whatever, that would constitute the same thing as a game room. And that's how it does. And some of the vending machines and these businesses, 95% of the people are honest and they follow the law. But you get that gray area, that 5% that will go out here and hand money out underneath the table. Normally, in law enforcement, we look at it like this. If you have a business like that, commissioner, or a deal, if there's 100 cars outside, you go down to the next one, there's only 2, in your mind, what's going on there? So you drive up and down there and see 100 cars at one and 2 at the other, what does that tell you? So, anyway.
so it's not illegal for a store to have, unless they're handing out money.
It would still.
And those are gonna be a case-by-case basis. That's gonna be Mercantile has a little machine that you put a quarter in and it rakes quarters back out to you or whatever. But this, what Dave has put together is for the blue blood game room, the true and blue game rooms.
Place a gun in their face, threat to kill all. People in San Antonio, they drove all the way to all. So that's what we're talking about.
I applaud Mr. Chapman for taking this on and putting this together. I think it's a great opportunity for the county to step up and do something good. Thank you, Dave.
So just one other thing real quick. So in reading this, it says that they can apply for a permit to have these?
No, this is not an ordinance permit. This is saying nobody can do anything to gamble in game rooms in Karnes County. It says if you open a game room, it's gonna be closed. And it's, the statute that allows game rooms and tells you how to set them up in Texas, in a county, not a city, is a way, one way to do it, and we're saying we opt out of that system. We opt into a system that says we don't want game rooms. And we think we're permitted to do that as an alternative. And I've said, I lay that out in here, that we're permitted to do that. And because we want to get rid of game rooms altogether, because if we do if we do the permit system, which is what was set up to get rid of all the varieties of permit systems in the state, and every county does a different one. I looked at many of them. It's just going to allow game rooms and crime to keep coming. Then we're just not gonna have it. And I'm just, I'm not gonna guarantee that it's gonna work, but it's something that I've come up with and, looked at and top and bottom, and I think it's worth trying. So I make, this is the law. If you make any guarantees, you're pretty much of a fool.
Judge, may I ask a question? Sure. Mr. Chapman, does this affect free enterprise for somebody trying to open a business or something?
Is it what?
Does it affect the free enterprise?
Well, if something's unconstitutional, don't consider it free enterprise.
Okay, I just want to make sure,
That's just, the Supreme Court of Texas has made it clear it's not free enterprise.
Okay.
And that just, that's the way I see it. I just think if we do it by a permit system, we're just we're allowing it to go the same way it is, which is to have these in the county.
I agree.
Judge, folks, I've never owned a game room, but I rent buildings. I rent buildings, and whoever comes first is who I rent it to. So sometimes these entertainment places come down and they rent from me. Now, I know years and years ago when they first came in, some of them were giving out prizes, and then some of them were giving out like cards. So I'm not really sure how a game room works because I've never owned a game room, but I rent buildings to game rooms like that. My only problem here is I'm 100% for the county, to clean up the county on everything. That just doesn't go with game rooms. That's drugs. Compare how many people are walking around like zombies and everything. We got to take care of the drug problem. We got to take care of consuming too much alcohol in all these places and driving away. We have to go ahead and run sting operations. We should be run sting operations in all the halls to make sure that they're not consuming too much alcohol from there. So there's a lot of problems in Karnes County. There's prostitution all over Karnes County. It's like, it's got out of control. And when it got out of control, if you back it up, it's when the oil field came in. So if you back it up to the day that the oil field came in, I do because I do a lot of bonding all over South Texas. And where the oil field came in, the crime rate raised up with game rooms and everything. I 100% agree. If there's something wrong and there's guns being pulled out and everything, yes. But on this issue that we're talking about right now, I'm not an attorney at all. Of course not. You're an expert at this. I read through everything, and I don't see any place that the Commissioners Court has the authority to close them, because any business could come into town, but of course, if they're doing wrong, you can bust them. That's where the sheriff's office comes in. Now, I do see where we can regulate them. Karnes City had this issue a few years ago. They didn't close them. They ran into the same problem. Karnes City couldn't close them. They regulated them. If not, they would have closed them. They regulated them to where it's so high where nobody wants to pay that money to have a game room. To be on the safe side, my part, I'm 100% for it, but on the regulation side, regulated to, let's put some high permits on there, everything too high to where they don't want to come in and they'll go to another county. That's just my opinion. I'm not an attorney, but I don't see where Commissioners Court has the authority to do that, and I don't want to open up Commissioners Court to litigation. That's my opinion, only my opinion, and I know some people probably out there say, James, because I'm an entrepreneur. I have businesses 100 miles around, and I go ahead and I rent to whoever comes first. So if it's one of these entertainment places, I rent to it. If it's an oil field, all these buildings that I have that I rent, and there's game rooms in them right now, oil field companies are after them. So on my part, it's either or. I rent them no matter what. So I would want to keep the crime out of here, but I don't want to put the county in jeopardy by doing something that we don't have the right to do, as opposed as doing where we can honestly regulate it, and that comes from the state of Texas, the legislature, where we can regulate these game rooms. All we got to do is regulate them high, and nobody wants to pay that dollar to come in. It's only my opinion. Restrict them from churches, restrict them from here, restrict them from there. Hell, just, excuse my language, we can restrict it to where we just restrict the one per precinct. Nobody's gonna wanna come in and pay the high dollars if we charge per eight-liner so much money and then a high permit fee. I don't know what the amount, the highest amount we can charge per eight-liner, but let's just say, for an example, we could charge $5,000 an eight-liner. A game room comes in, they want to put 40 eight-liners. That's $200,000 for the county that we get. They screw up, excuse me. They mess up. The sheriff's department comes in here, and the permit that says, if you ever get raided or something, you're gone. And then we keep on going. But it's a regulation. But I think if we regulate it, just like cities have regulated, there's a lot of counties, about 10 counties that I looked up, and they have regulations. None of them have like just shot them down. They've all regulated them, and they got rid of them like that. I just don't want to open up to the county to some kind of litigation, but I'm 100% for it if it can be done to where we don't open up. And you're probably correct. Like I said, you're the expert. I'm not. I just know what I read, and everything can be, there's an opinion on everything written two ways. It just depends on who reads it.
Part of the problem there, let me talk to you in two steps there. Number one is, first of all, there's been one case, I asked Chief Deputy, what's the most number of machines that you've ever confiscated? And he said, in one game room and one bust, they confiscated 175 machines, and that game room was back open within 3 or 4 days. Those people have money to replace them. Now, the other thing is, nobody can charge that kind of money anymore since the 2023 statute. We cannot tell somebody that it's going to cost $5,000 to open up a game room. That's no longer the law anymore. We've got to follow the law that was set out in 2023. I don't know what it is anymore, but it's not $5,000 to set up a game room anymore. I don't have the exact figures here, but it's not $5,000. We can't do it. So we cannot make that much money and keep them out. We've got a limit as to what we can do. And we've got, I mean, we just can't kill them. And as far as doing something that will cost the county money and do something that's wrong, we can do something that follows the Constitution as opposed to something that's we're doing something that's constitutional as opposed to violating the Constitution. Those people are doing something unconstitutional, and we're saying we're doing something right under the Constitution. And it seems to me that's the path we ought to take.
Any other questions or discussion for Mr. Chapman? Okay.
Judge, I'll move that we approve this ordinance as presented.
Okay, we've got a motion or a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Anybody opposed to it?
Judge, I'm opposing only because I don't want to open it up to litigation, but I agree with it 100%. I just wanted to regulate them and it keeps them out the same.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Item number 12, discuss, approve, disapprove. Thank you, David, for all your hard work on that. Item number 12, discuss, approve, disapprove STEP program effective October 1, 2024, as presented by the Salary Committee. I've got Vi up here, and Casey has a presentation
Yes,
again.
Casey's gonna make a little update to the presentation we did last week.
Mirror, the committee met several times since the last presentation. There were some concerns brought up on the amount of money it would take to kick this off. There were some alternate numbers plugged in. Casey plugged those numbers in along with Denise and Vi's office, ran the program with the word I'm looking for, a decreased percentage, and that threw the whole program completely out of whack. And we'll be able to show you that in the presentation that Casey's got here. So again, this is a 20-year program. I did get a text message from someone that was that heard maybe secondhand, third-hand knowledge of what this program was, and that person said, you know, I want to speak against it, and I said, that's fine. However, we've been working on this for 3-4 years. Last year, I was against implementing this last year. Several on the committee that are against it now were way in favor of having this implemented last year and are all of a sudden against it. I would tell that person that sent me that text message this morning early that this isn't something that we just willy-nilly came up with overnight. This is something we have been working hard on for years. And it's taken a lot of time, it's taken a lot of effort, and it is a benefit in the long run, in the 20 years of this program. It benefits the taxpayer way more than doing a year-by-year 3, 4, 5% increase. And I'm happy to talk with that person that sent me that text message face-to-face anytime, not at 6:30 in the morning before a meeting that they can't make it to. Casey?
Good morning, Court. I felt there was value in doing a high-level recap of the presentation we provided last week, Tuesday, just to potentially answer any questions you might have. As Judge Hedke stated, in the last 2 weeks, we had a series of 2 meetings, of which we had a lot of robust conversation. The following Tuesday after last Commissioners Court meeting about the startup methodology and how we can try and reduce the bottom dollar when it comes to implementing it. But again, as stated, I'll try and show you that though it was good discussion and though we tried, the method was unsuccessful in implementing it the correct way, in our opinion. So just a quick highlight again of what we talked about 2 weeks ago. Again, nothing is approved until acted on by the court. Review of the committee members, Judge Hedke, Commissioner Geisler, Mrs. Swartz, Ms. Sweezy, Mr. Dupnick, Sheriff Villanueva, Wayne Geisler, Road and Bridge, Bonnie Ramirez, HR, and myself. Again, so went down a path, the committee went down a path 3 years ago, starting with trying to increase a fair and equitable pay rate for everybody within the county. That has since been completed. And then last fiscal year is when we implemented the longevity program, $240 per year service per employee. That's all comers, as well as a 3% cost of living adjustment that was provided given the inflationary market that we live in. And then this is the last step, is to adopt and implement the STEP program this upcoming fiscal year, which is the hope. So the benefits of it is, from a recruiting perspective, is we have an employee come in, a prospective employee come in, we can literally sit down with a graph to say, today you're coming in at $10 an hour, and then 20 years from now you will be retiring. Granted, budgetary approval, things don't go to absolute chaos. Based upon a STEP program that has been implemented in Karnes County, this is where you could potentially retire at as far as a hourly wage and compute that into an annual gross. So having the employee and that's to that point, current employees today is going to sit in front of those employees and say, here's the projected growth over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. That is huge. And then, of course, that leads to retention of those employees that have been here and served their time within Karnes County. And those that, again, you recruit them in, they have no reason to stay because it's forecasted as far as what their increases are going to be over a 20-year cycle. From that point, too, again, an advantageous point to make for you as a court is you know what the cost is going to be. The steps as they are lined out within the next couple of slides, we'll revisit those. Those are set. And granted, you have the authority to change any of that at any time, but from a budgetary perspective, you know what that cost is going to be. And then that known cost eliminates the need for any last minute, what are we going to do this year, right, during budget season? We didn't do anything last year, and I'm speaking from history, right? Those that have been here for some time, you know, we've talked about these every single budget cycle. What have we done here? What have we done? Oh, should we do 3%, 5%? This eliminates that need. And then again, as already stated, though the implementation cost is real, it's significantly reduced year 2, 3, 4, 5, and beyond once you get everybody into the STEP program. So again, quick basics, it covers 143 county employees. It's based on the starting pay rate for the position. That starting pay rate, as I'll line out for you, comes in 2 flavors. Essentially, the fiscal year 2022, 2023, the $19.23 an hour for your clerical position for anybody that be coming in new post-implementation of the STEP program. And then any current employee would have that pay rate with the associated 3% cost of living adjustment that was provided last year as the 2, quote, starting pay rates. The steps themselves are based upon completed years of service for the county as a whole. We'll talk about a policy that I put in front of you today. We're not asking for action on that. I simply want to disseminate that for you to have some discussion, hopefully for potential adoption into the future. But again, years of service will be total time with the county, not necessarily just that position or department. And then it's capped at 20 years of service. So the steps themselves. So step 1 is entry, a total of 10 steps over a period of 20 years, as already stated. Step 2 would be 1 year of completed service. Step 3 would be 2 years, 5 years, 7, 10, 12, 15, 17, and 20. As we talked about 2 weeks ago, what you see as far as the percentages that coincide with the steps, you see higher, if you will, increases per year on the first 3 steps, being step 2, step 3, and step 4, equaling 5, 6, and 4%. The thought process behind that is your maximum retention opportunity for an employee. Once they're here for a period of approximately 5 years, 8 years are vested into TCDRS, that employee is pretty well invested in their spot here at Karnes County. But in that period of time, looking back at history, again, as I stated 2 weeks ago, Ms. Pruski would say, as well as I believe Mrs. Ramirez could attest, that our attrition and turnover rate is probably the highest in that period of 1 to 5 years from an employee perspective. So as you get past the 5 years, you start to plateau out at 3.5% for the next 2 steps, and then 3% every other year every 2 years until retirement. So over a course of 20 years, it's 34% growth potential, averaging out to 1.7% per year. So as we stated last time, whether we're doing the STEP program, which we're advocating for, or you do the kind of knee-jerk reaction, forgive my better way to explain it, 3% here, 3% there, generally speaking, this pre-programmed cruise control, if you will, would be cheaper over time. So what does that mean monetarily? I gave you the steps on that slide. I'll show you what that looks like monetarily for an employee. So again, running 2 examples. And I understand this is a refresher, but I find it's crucial to have everybody understand what hope a vote will come to at the end of this. So example 1 would be a new employee being hired after the implementation of a STEP program. So as you see from left to right of the screen, you have step 1 through 10. And again, after 1 year of completed service, they go from the entry level starting spot of $19.23 an hour. That first completed year of service gets you a 5%, which equals $20.19 an hour. And I won't read them verbatim, but you can see their growth over the 20 years of service, 34% of growth over that period of time. Note that on the bottom of those, you have arrows representing a break, meaning that that employee gets that step, that new step at the beginning of that year of completed service, and then they sit there for a period of 3 years or 2 years, depending upon which step we're talking about. The debate or conversation has come up to say, well, what about the people that are in there for 2 or 3 years? My personally argument to that would be longevity helps offset that period of 2 to 3 years, depending upon how long you're waiting. Because as we know, longevity is every year of service $240 a year, $240 per year. So it offsets that period of in between, kind of that sawtooth growth through the STEP program. Example two, and this is where it's going to come to the implementation cost, is for all 143 employees that currently are affected by the implementation of the STEP program, this is how the implementation would be affected, at least recommended. So today, that employee, I'm using a 7-year employee as an example. Today, they're at $19.81. They've had 7 years of completed service effective October the 1st. So on October the 1st, if this were to be approved and implemented, they would be prorated those 7 years of service with those associated steps at October the 1st. So monetarily, what that will look like is they're currently at 1981. They've achieved step 1, which is step 2, which is 1 year, that's 5%. They have achieved step 3, which is 2 years, which is 6%. They've achieved 5 years of service, which is step 4, which is 4%. They would land in the 7-year bucket, which is the additional 3.5%. So yes, you have to, the appropriate way I'm hoping to prove to you is the appropriate way, my opinion, I believe that of the committee, is to implement this in a prorated fashion to get them all the way up into their associated step. If you try and limit that in any way, which I'll show you, we have problems. So with that implementation methodology, here's the cost. Again, you've seen this 2 weeks ago. The numbers that Denise and the treasurer's office have ran is for 143 eligible employees to turn this on effective October the 1st, including payroll, FICA, Medicare, and TCDRS contribution is $1.347 million. As I stated 2 weeks ago, back in two and a half, almost 3 years ago now, when we did the kind of bring everybody up to 40,000, that was 1.37. Of that 1.3 million, there are 59 employees that will be achieving a new step in this upcoming fiscal year. I think I've omitted it in this presentation, but as an employee achieves a new step throughout that fiscal year, we have to plan budgetarily for that higher amount. Meaning that if I have let's say a 9-year employee that's in the 7-year bucket, because there's no 8 or 9-year bucket, they're sitting in a 7-year bucket on October the 1st. Let's say their anniversary date is in June. Well, they won't get that next step until they hit their anniversary month, but we have to plan for that cost at the beginning of October. Does that make sense? So that number of 1.3 million is about $140,000 inflated to account for those 59 employees achieving a new step during the next fiscal year. So here's a breakdown. I won't spend too much time on this. Again, you've seen this before. On the left pie chart, you see employee year of service breakdown. Green is 1 to 5, blue is 6 to 10, pink is 11 to 15, and then brown is 16 to 20. So you have the majority of your workforce within the 1 to 5 year bucket. That makes up the largest majority of the entire county's workforce. And then on the right-hand side, you see of those years of service breakdowns, where's the biggest chunk of the money, the overall 1.3 million. So again, percentages will tell you 47% of that 1.3 million is your 1 to 5 because they do represent the large majority of the workforce. But then once you get into the 6 to 10 bucket and then 11 to 15 and 16 to 20, though they represent a smaller overall piece of the pie, that piece of the pie is bigger, meaning that's a bigger impact per employee because they're prorating their years of service into the implementation of October the 1st. So year 2, we ran the numbers based upon current employees. We said 1.3 million to turn it on. Year 2 to maintain it into the future, and I would argue it probably plus or minus 5 to 10% is pretty on point. It's $130,000 in the following fiscal year, so it would be year 2 of the STEP program to maintain that. And there'd be 45 employees maintaining or achieving a new step. So again, turning it on, everybody's going to get something. 143 employees are going to be getting something, right? Year 2, you're only having, and in subsequent, you only have to pay an additional fee up to the people that are achieving a new step in that upcoming fiscal year. So after the first proposal that we made 2 weeks ago on the 14th, as I stated, we had a salary committee meeting that following Tuesday, which led to a lot of conversation about how can we reduce the cost. We all had, I believe, consensus that everybody loved the steps. We loved the step 1 through 20, the 5, 6, 4, 3.5, 3.5, 3, 3, 3. And to get a little bit of back history on that, there were a total of 3 proposals that the committee took in as far as what is the steps going to look like. There was one that I believe, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong on this, there was one that was like a 9% year 1, and then there was like a 7% year 2, and then it was 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 until infinity. Then we had another one that was similar to ours, but was a little more aggressive on the front end, meaning I think it was an 8%, a 6%, a 5%, 3.5%, 3.33.
Right.
So the one that we have proposed in front of the court today is the most arguably conservative step, of which we all have consensus we like. It was the 1.3 million that was, okay, how can we potentially reduce that and try and figure out a way to still implement the program with overall trying to reduce the cost. So with that, we talked about doing a modified startup method with what I like to refer to as buckets. So we looked at the total of the employee makeup of 1 to 3 years, 4 to 6 years, 7 to 10, 11 to 15, and 15 plus. And though not written in stone, these were numbers that we kind of just anecdotally figured it sounded good. And we went back from the drawing board and we agreed with that and started to try and implement it and actually run the numbers to see how they fell. And what we found was a lot of things aren't positive. Yes, there is a cost savings. You could reduce the 1.3 million to about $600,000. The problems are significantly higher, in my opinion, in that it re-breaks what little separation that we already have. Example, we have today, I'll use my department as an example. I have a 10-year employee and a 1.5-year employee making the same dollar amount. I know it's in the tax office, I think there's a 17-year employee making the same as a 1-year employee. So there's not hardly any separation today, hence why 3 years ago, we said we're going down this path, say we collectively, we said we're gonna go down this path and we're gonna try and get this STEP program implemented to try and get everybody separated and prorated for years of service. The longevity, yes, helps. It does not affect, in my opinion, their base salary. It's a one-time bonus per year for their, based upon their longevity with the county. And then it limits their growth, meaning that, and I'll show you on the next page, or the next slide, you limit the growth of your current employees, meaning that if you have somebody that's been here for 10 years or 5 years or any amount of time for that matter, with the buckets that I just described, you limit them for the total 34% of growth over their time with Karnes County. They're limited to either 20%, 10%, just depending upon where they fall. And then probably most importantly, as you start to run through the math and you implement it based upon what I just said here, the buckets, you very quickly have 2-year employees making more money than 10-year employees or 12-year employees because you limited the growth on a 10-year or 12-year employee. You put the 1 to 3 people in a 5% bucket, and then guess what? Mid-fiscal year that we're about to go into, they get a 6%. Yeah. So though it looked good at October the 1st, that 2-year employee jumps ahead of that 10-year employee. So let me show you what that looks like. So you've seen a similar, and I apologize, this is busy, but this is the best way that I could come up with to try and explain what I was talking about. So limiting growth potential. If you look at the top of the screen, that's the pink/magenta colored outline. That is over a 20-year period what the employees should be subject to, a 34% growth potential. And again, as we stated in a couple of slides ago, is if we implemented it the way we feel is appropriate, take today's pay rate, grant them their years of service. I'm using a 10-year employee as an example. They would go to step 6 and they would cumulatively get that prorating of 22%, yes. But they've been here for 10 years and then now they have 12% more to grow until they hit the year 20, which is a 34% total. If we use the bucket analogy and we said that the 8 to 10 year, excuse me, the 7 to 10 year employees, we're gonna give them 10%, not 22%. Look at the bottom, which is the blue outline box. That arrow on the far left-hand side, it says pay only affected by 10%. That in actuality is where they would be, not the one that I referred to on the top, which is the step 6. And then you only gave them 10%, you took 12% away from them. The best way to put it, you've taken 12% of growth away from that employee for the remainder, for the total time within Karnes County. My second, and probably arguably the most worrisome, if we did something similar to what we described, using the buckets to try and decrease the overall cost. Again, using an example here, we have one employee who has 1 year of service effective October the 1st, and another employee, employee 2, that has 10 years of service. They're both making the same dollar amount today. Okay, we then implement the buckets. One will get 5%, which is employee number 1, that goes to $23.53 an hour. The employee 2, who's been here for 10 years, gets the 10%, which is $24.65. So one would say, well, it looks fine. The problem is employee 1 is going to achieve the next step mid-fiscal year, and they're going to get their 6%. So now they jump ahead of the 10-year employee. And again, that's just using one example. There's some the 5 and 7 year examples that Denise found. There's some 8 and 10 year examples. There's a lot of 1 to 2 and 10 year employees. So yes, though the cost is real. I would argue, having probably a large amount of your workforce being highly upset is probably a bigger cost than the 1.3 million. Summary, as stated again, I don't want to beat a dead horse. This is the third and final step as far as the 3-year journey that arguably the court as a whole has went down. Recruitment and retention are key. This STEP program allows you to be able to sit in front of your employees, prospective employees, to say, here's what your growth is going to look like over the next 20 years for Karnes County, along with everything else the county has to offer you. That's key. And then the startup methodology is crucial to the success. We've tried. I told you we've saved money, but again, cost compared to the actual results of how it will be implemented, ultimately, I believe the 1.3 is a real cost, but the only way to do it correctly. And then again, after implemented, the price, as you saw, is 10% of what the implementation is. $130,000 plus or minus probably 5 to 6 over the next 5 to 10 years, however long the court continues to hopefully keep the STEP program, if approved, in existence. So next steps, recommendation of the committee to have a motion to approve the STEP program as presented and allow the as well as other department heads to run the numbers for the upcoming budget for the payroll. One thing that I stated 2 weeks ago was obviously this is a two-part equation. The first part is what I just described to you. The second part is the policy on how the county wants to administer this program, the rules of the road. That is before you today. The agenda item does not allow me to speak to that, so I'm just going to, again, disseminate that information, and we'll come back probably the following court to take a motion to approve that. But again, as a commissioner, please feel free to reach out with questions if you have any related to the program and or the policy that's presented to you. Questions? Thank you for your time, first of all, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on the program.
Thank you, Casey. And as Casey stated, there was robust conversation and with the suggestions that were made, we made a valiant attempt, a very real attempt, and I believe that we showed that why that alternative bucket would not work. And so, again, it's been late nights and early mornings and even some weekend work on this for members of this committee, and we feel like we've presented the best thing for our employees. And again, this does not include any elected officials. This is just our employees. So thank you, Casey. Thank you, Vi. Thank you all on the committee. Denise, who's not in here, for punching numbers. But thank you all. Questions from the court?
Casey,
Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Our taxable value right now is $10,840,431,541. That was 2023. When it came in, we always get an estimate, like in April, our estimate was $54,659,546. So from the estimate value that they gave us to begin with, they missed about, I guess about $200 million on that. So right now, our estimate that comes in every year, like on April, that we get from our appraisal district, our estimated tax value right now is $7,552,882.333. That's over $3.2 billion less that y'all, and I'm sure y'all did, but y'all took in consideration if we keep going down on our taxable value, but we're going up. And I want to help the employees 100%. I always have. I'm for the employees 100%, sure. But I work for the county 100%. First, it's county. So did you take in consideration that we went $3.2 billion from 2023 to 2024, our estimated value? And if our estimated value in 2023 went down $1 billion, then what's to say that on the $7 billion, we're not going to go down a few hundred million dollars, I'm not sure. And then what's going to happen next year and the year before? Sure. If businesses or whatever reason this came in, if it's for oil, or I'm not really sure how we came down this low, but what if we keep going down every year $1 billion, $2 billion? I'm not really sure. We went $3.2 billion in 1 year. What makes it say that we're not going to go billions of dollars next year in 2025, 2026, 2026? Sure. And in order to maintain paying this out, we're either going to have to raise taxes, which I'm not going to raise taxes, or take out of our general fund. Is that all considered in this?
So though there was not any specific conversation about taxable value in our conversation, I mean, there was very much conversation about the cost of not only implementation and maintaining this, and ultimately the court has to maintain a veto card, right? Whether the valuations continue to trend down or come back up, the cost is real, and I mean, the committee is well aware of the cost. So again, I can't specifically state that we specifically talked about valuations. But again, it's a give and take.
We did not specifically talk about, and that was mentioned in a text message at 6:30 this morning. We're talking about $3 billion is a whole lot of money. $130,000 next year to take care of your employees?
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
He said the judge said $130,000. That's in addition to the 1.3 million every year that's.
No. It's not 1.3 million dollars every year.
It's only a one hit?
That is your, whenever you turn the switch on October 1st to take care of your employees that have been here for 10 years and have been working with lower wages, that have stuck it out with Karnes County and said, hey, I like what you're doing. I see the direction that you're going. Here it is. Here's the direction. It's in front of you. We've laid it out, and let's take care of our employees. It is $130,000 next year to continue this. And James, if you look at it over 20 years, that breaks down, and I don't know if you caught it or not, that's a 1.7% increase every year. That's small.
Yes, I understand 100%. I agree with the 20-year step plan. There's nothing wrong with that. But let me ask another question, okay?
Yes, sir.
The judge said that it's only a one hit of 1.37, so is that like a bonus that we're giving them, or are we still gonna be paying them that amount every year?
So the 1.3 is an additional increase of the overall payroll for the Karnes County.
Year.
That's, so yes, I mean, you have 1.3 added to your payroll cost. That's to get everybody
Every year.
where they need to be.
Okay.
That's your total increase to your payroll.
Plus the 130.
Correct.
Right, so it
Yes,
is,
sir.
it is the 1.3 million every year plus the 130.
You've increased your overall payroll budget by 1.3 million to get it turned on. That's there to stay. Granted, the STEP program stays
Exactly.
where it's at, or the county just completely wipes away pay raises completely.
It's not a bonus, it's
Correct.
added to your
Absolutely.
income.
And then you have the 10% plus or minus $130,000 added to that payroll budget.
Yes, sir.
The next year into the future.
Only concern was the taxable values going down.
Yes, sir.
I want to help, I'm always for the employees, 100%. Been here a long time, I'm always for the employees. I'm worried about the taxable values going down. We got a 3 billion less in 1 year. What's to say we're not going to keep going down? I know none of us have a crystal ball. We don't know.
It's economics, unfortunately.
We don't know.
We don't have a crystal ball, but we too, I mean, as a resident and an employee of the county, I wear both hats. I see both sides of the story.
Yes, of course.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Ms. Fine.
James, I've been here for 17 years, and we probably had $10 million when I started. We have $103 million now. Now, we don't want to go below this money. We want to be very conservative with our money.
Yes.
But we need to help our employees.
100%.
We have employees now, like Casey had alluded to, in the tax office, she's been here for 1 year, and another one that's been here 17 years, and they're making the exact same dollar amount. If you don't pass this STEP program, you got to fix it somehow. It doesn't matter, Robert. It doesn't matter.
And so we lost someone very vital that has been in our office for many years. And because of the unknown, she left. So we lost that employee. So this is giving that employee, for the next 20 years, this is what you're making. You can foresee that. And we're not going to lose anybody because they know what they're coming. Every year it's been unknown, so she left.
That's longevity, which is good.
Correct.
Which is good. I'm not against it. I'm not against it. I just want to make sure that the court understands that we are going down on that. I'm sure they knew that, but if it wasn't discussed, then that's just something I wanted to bring up. But I'm not against it. I love the 20-year plan. I think that's great. And the judge is right. It's a little less than 2% per year. That gives them there, plus longevity.
Correct.
The initial hit, the 1.3 was the only thing that was worrying me. That's
Sure.
the only thing that was worrying me.
And that's why we had, and to Commissioner Geisler's credit, I mean, he was the one
Absolutely.
that came
Yeah,
up
he
with
did
how can we
great.
come up with the solution to reduce that? And Though again, there's a cost saving, it's just, it defeats the purpose of implementing, so you're better off not doing anything, quite frankly.
We would go back to where we were 6 years ago, which was, and you remember it, all of y'all remember except Wes, but it was, we were trying to work off a 2014 salary survey midpoint plus 5%. And it was just, it was a wreck. It was a wreck across the board in payroll. Whenever we got this straightened out 2 years ago for your base salaries, we got the longevity implemented, and now the STEP program, it's there for 20 years. I mean, again, like Casey said, a new court can come in, they can veto it, and they can say, no, this isn't working, but I feel like we've poured our heart and souls into this, and this is the best solution for our payroll and for our employees.
Judge, may I ask a question? This consider the overtime as well?
Yes, for my department, just speaking, the only one that I believe gets cash payment for overtime, yes. So the hourly rates are reflective of their built-in overtime. And that was actually, as soon as Vi and Denise sent out version 1 with the third option as far as the steps, I'm like, whoa, hold on. We got to change that to reflect their appropriate hourly rate to accommodate for the overtime. Yes, sir. My proposed department budget accounts for that.
And your plan, proposed plan, is that the current rates or?
So that sheet yes, sir. So again, not to get too far off the subject, the policy that's presented to you just for consideration to look at a different time, that spreadsheet, Commissioner, is based upon current dollar and current rate for every employee listed, every position, listed on that sheet. And Commissioner Rosales, maybe to answer you or give a little bit of comfort into one of your concerns as far as if things were to change, can the court adjust? And this policy does allow for that, just like with longevity, right? If something terrible happens, the court can always pull back longevity and either reduce it or just completely abolish it altogether if we can't afford it.
That's in the longevity policy as well as what will be presented in the program policy.
I did, Judge. I did reach out to other counties. I talked to Judge Fowler from DeWitt County. They had this 20-year step plan, and I asked him if he's the one that implemented it. He said, no, it was in there when he got there, but they abolished it.
Correct.
And he had to go to court. He didn't finish talking to me about it, the reasons why they abolished it, and I was running around. I did not call him back, but this same plan, probably y'all tweaked it a little bit. I'm not really sure what happened, but it did come from DeWitt County, and I talked to Judge Fowler. He's a friend of mine, and he said they abolished it from there, because y'all knew that too.
Correct.
So
And that was mentioned last go around, and Commissioner Lissie, I believe, asked the question. So DeWitt County, based upon what was provided by their HR director to Mrs. Ramirez, is they went to a performance-based incentive.
Yes, he told me
instead
that.
of a
That's
STEP
right.
program. That whole performance-based versus STEP program has been robustly discussed as well within our committee meetings. Again, you can pick either option, but we feel at the best way to be fair and equitable across the way is just to do STEP program, because you have department heads that may or may not agree with or want to actually follow the performance base, and it creates a whole nother, again, I'm speaking just on my personal stance. I believe the committee has had consensus that performance-based is not the option they want to recommend.
I wouldn't do a performance-based. There's gonna be too many people hollering that it's not
It would be,
right.
yes, sir.
Yep.
But thank you for bringing that up, because it was a question that Commissioner Lissie asked last week.
In the private sector, I am performance-based 100%. If
yeah.
you are in private business, if I'm the president, owner, CFO of my Wade Julius Hedke company, and I pay employees out of my profit, they're going to be on a performance base. If you're not working, and if you're not meeting you have your private business too. If you're not meeting those standards, however, in county government, and I've said this multiple times, county government it's the craziest business plan that I've ever seen in my life. It's wild. It doesn't make sense. But across the board in this county government, this is the best option for not only our county, but for our employees.
Any other questions? Happy to answer anything.
You did great. You always do great. Long-winded, but great.
Yeah. Sold.
But you're
I'd be
great.
sold.
You're
I could
great.
make a simple yes, no answer into something. very
No,
long.
you're great.
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
$347,000 ramp.
Yes, sir.
It's not really one time.
That's what it costs to implement the program. That the 1.3 is a overall increase.
But
Yes, sir.
from now on, so it's perpetual, it's not
Yes.
one time.
It's a total, to implement the program, to get everybody into it, it's going to cost an additional $1.3 million to the county's payroll budget.
As people go retiring, then that goes.
Correct.
The lead,
Attrition,
right, yes.
attrition is the STEP program's friend, as is the county's friend. I hate to put it that way, but
We get
yes.
5 retirees, that's gonna come down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Correct. As people phase out of Karnes County and they have less tenure with the county, yeah, they reset back to that entry-level position and they work their way through the next 20 years. Yes, sir.
I like it. Thank y'all for working. Yeah. But I was lit up this weekend, lots of taxpayers. One was the,
Nobody can hear you, Commissioner.
but I was lit up this weekend by a lot of taxpayers. The STEP program to them wasn't a problem, it was the ramp up. I heard about the salary adjustment 2 years ago, the big raise, the 3% COLA raise.
You need to turn your microphone on, I believe.
Okay. And I'll start over. I got lit up this weekend about not the STEP program, but the ramp up. And I heard from several people about the salary adjustment 2 years ago, the 3% COLA last year, and now y'all want to spend all this money again. And I didn't hear anybody that was in favor of it.
So what I would ask for is an alternate implementation. Because, and ramp up, I don't like that term. It's simply an implementation. It's turning it on. We're not doing anything mischievous. We're simply saying we're prorating everybody's years of service to get them into their appropriate step effective when it turns on. And yes, that has an associated cost. I believe I showed you, if you try to put everybody at step 1 today, everybody resets back and they cannot ever catch up. And so I trust me when I say I understand the cost is real.
As does everybody on the committee.
When it comes to the implementation, if everybody likes the STEP program, and this is kind of what we came with a week and a half ago, is everybody likes the program, well, gosh, that's a lot of money. The only way to fix that is to just trash it and go to something else. I mean, really, you can't, if you try to, in my opinion, and I believe my committee members would agree with me, or at least majority of them would, is that you have to implement it the way it's been proposed to get everybody across the board equal into their appropriate step. If we try and pull that back and limit their growth, it just defeats the purpose, so there's really no point in doing it. I mean, we've racked our head time and time again. And as Commissioner Geisler said in our last committee meeting, if we had 3.5 years to figure it out and a bunch of, economical folks and calculators and mathematicians there, we could probably come up with something that ultimately would probably cost less money. But we don't have, I mean, quite frankly, I don't feel
maybe not. And it may not. But, you talking about, I heard crickets and I had my phone on all weekend, as I always do. I didn't have one person call me. I got one text message this morning at 6:30 that says exactly what you two are just saying. And I get the phone calls, folks. I don't only get the phone calls, I get pulled over in public. I get walking into Walmart if I'm sitting down at it doesn't matter. I get the phone calls. And I haven't gotten a phone call. I've had folks call me and say, after the presentation 2 weeks ago, say, that looks good. I have questions on it, and whenever I sat down and I explained those questions and I answered those questions that they had and showed them what 20 years does, yes, You bring up a 3% increase last year, I voted against that. I did not want to do that because it affected this so much. You gave a raise to deputies to bring deputies in, $10,000 apiece. We're still short those deputies. I mean, I'm sorry, employees, and folks out there and taxpayers, because this benefits the taxpayer. This benefits the taxpayer. I'm a taxpayer and I complain about taxes all the time because I pay plenty of them. When I'm paying that much taxes and I look at something like this and I can go along with it, y'all know, you sat, James, you sat here with me for the last, and you two as well. I am fiscally conservative, almost to a fault. But you bring up, our appraisal value, but we're spending how much on a road and bridge building? And closing in buildings? Take care of your employees, folks, and we've worked very hard to do that. And if there's, I mean, I'm open for discussion, but that's all I'm gonna say about it. 143. Oh, did you run that?
I didn't run that specific detail, Chief. Kurt,
And that's gonna correct.
Chief,
And that's a great example because that is going to correct on January. Right.
sure. Chief, anecdotally, I don't think there were many. I know your position was one, and I think maybe one or two. But it weren't correct.
There's a, library, I think.
We did.
Will the ramp up, or you won't call it this implementation plan, it's gonna cause some positions to get a sizable percentage increase, correct?
Yes, sir. As the more tenured you are, the more sizable the implementation will be. Because you're prorating those years of service. Like, example, if you have somebody that if it's been there for 20+ years, they're gonna get 34% effective October the 1st. That's the simplest way to put it. If somebody's been there for 10 years, and again, I'm not sugarcoating anything. This is real transparent communication. If I've been there for 10 years, you're getting 22%. If I've been there for 20, I'm getting 34%. To the starting period that the court's already
Right.
established 2 years.
Position, correct. And does this have warts? It does. Does anything that you're gonna do in county government, that when you try to implement something like this, it's gonna have some warts. These are the least amount of warts. Any other discussions from the court? Happy to entertain a motion.
Or Judge, I went through this and juggled it in my head like all decisions, major decisions like this. And I did get called by several people on there, and I don't think the 20-year step program was a problem. It was the backing up of it was a problem. So I did talk to several people over the last week, week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that. And I know y'all have done extensive work on it, and I know nobody's here to harm the county. I understand that. And now that I've spoken with you more, now I understand it completely, and I do understand also as people go retiring, that's gonna go dropping and dropping and dropping. And of course, people do retire, or people leave, or maybe they get a better job for more money, whatever. But that money is ultimately gonna change. But the 20-year step program, I think it's excellent. I think that's really excellent, and I agree with it. For whatever reason, another county dropped it, that's up to them. Maybe they didn't have the longevity, and we do have the longevity, so that'll work out after 20 years. You're still gonna have the longevity to offset that. Any more raises, you'll be getting a raise with longevity. The only problem that, I'm gonna be honest, that people called me about was the backing up. The backing up was the issue, nothing about the 20-year, it was all the backing up. But with that being said, I'm always for the employees, I wanna help the employees, but I do not wanna raise taxes because of this. So if something goes down and these taxable values keep going down, then I'm gonna ask to adjust, something. We're gonna have to adjust something on this because I don't wanna hit the taxpayers with this. I'm not here to destroy the taxpayers and I understand that employees need raises, they need to be set good. I mean, we have a wonderful county, I love my county, would never go anywhere else. So I want to help the employees, but not at the taxpayers' expense like that.
Sure.
Okay, with that being said, I'll make a motion. What item we are, Judge? 11, right? 10? 12? Okay, sorry about that. I'll make a motion to approve item number 12 as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Anybody opposed?
I'm gonna abstain because representing precinct 2, I'm gonna just abstain to it.
Okay, motion carries. Item number 13, discuss, approve, disapprove elected officials' pay increase as presented by the salary committee. This is elected official.
The committee had submitted some proposed increases on the salaries for the elected officials. The last increase we had received was 2 years ago. Anything would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Judge?
Yeah.
Did you work and speak?
No.
Oh, okay, all right. Sorry. I looked at that, Vi. I looked at what y'all came up with and everything. Everything looked fine. I don't have a problem with giving the elected officials, a bump up because I understand that an elected official is not really an employee, but yes, we work for the county. And as an elected official, you take it with you 24/7. You know that. You've been here 17 years.
Yes.
You can't tell me you don't take it 24/7 because I do too. So I agree with that. The only thing that I don't agree on that, and again, I'm the one that stands up here on commissioners' court like this, was that the commissioners, I think y'all set it at 70, and then the other elected officials, the clerks and the county clerk, the district clerk, the treasurer and everything at 74, am I correct?
I think so, yes.
Okay, that's one thing I disagree on. The county commissioners should be making the same as they do because we are the same thing. We are the group that take care of the county up here. So we take a lot of heat up here. We're 24/7. I don't see where the salary committee would have came out that the county commissioners make 70 and then they make 74. I don't have a problem with that. I just think that I don't see why that would have happened. It's not about the money. I'm sorry. It's not about the money. I'm asking, I need $4,000. It's not that.
Right.
It's the position should be. So whoever comes into these other positions feels good that they're making the same amount. Because when I first came in 20-something years ago, we were all making $29,000. As the years went by, we've always tried to adjust. If we're trying to adjust for the employees, elected officials, all of us up here, we work for the county too. Everybody works for the county. You work for the county.
Right.
Not anything against the employees. I just made the motion to help the employees.
Right.
But we are like employees, and I think cost of living affects everybody. It doesn't just affect them. It affects the elected officials. I know a lot of people will say, well, the elected officials shouldn't get it. I don't see that. We are the same as them. The cost of living doesn't change for us. We don't walk into a store and say, hey, you get a 10% discount.
Right.
It doesn't happen.
And I think the reason we did that is because we went with the averages of the other counties compared to the commissioners in the other counties. So,
In these, we did not spend, and correct me if I'm wrong, Vi, we did not spend
maybe 15 minutes.
On elected officials. And I don't believe that we need to do anything with elected officials this year. I think that's something that we need to look at something like this closely next year, like we looked at the STEP program for this year. I think that you really dive deep into that and you look at that and say, okay, let's really do our research on it and then next year present that to court on your elected officials.
And I would second that opinion. I mean, you know, we've had our back and forth on this, and I think with the implementation of the STEP program and turning it on, that hit that, you know, is going to be there for the county is something that, let it go, and I know we're not affected as elected officials by the STEP program, but let it go for a year. Let's see what's going to happen, and it'll be something we'll be able to navigate a little closer next year and have the time, as the judge said, to maybe kick around a little bit more and come up with a structure that's a little bit better for everyone. So, my opinion.
Judge, may I? With that being said, I do understand that 100% completely. Back when we had no money, the elected officials always suffered the hit. They got the hickey all the time. The commissioner's court, not just the commissioner's court, all the elected officials, we always gave up our raises or whatever we could for the employees. Did it with Judge Pavelic, Judge Kendall. We went through there doing all that because we didn't have any money, so we gave it to the employees. But the same reason as we're doing it now, we have the monies to go ahead and treat everybody equally. And everybody to me is equal.
Yes.
It's my opinion.
Yes, so if you wanted to change them, that's fine with that. That was just, like I said, we spent 10, 15 minutes on it. Just, it's something to present to court, so.
Any other discussion from the court? I'll entertain a motion.
We'll bring it back to the salary committee for next year.
Okay.
Yeah, but as a committee, we appreciate what you did for the employees. That's first and foremost, more important to retain the ones that we have, and we really appreciate that. Thank you.
We will take no action on item number 13 due to lack of a motion.
Thank you, Vi.
Item number 14 is our consent agenda. We have reports from Constable Precinct 3, and we've got 3 budget amendments. Those budget amendments are for, is that the library ones, Tom? Is that correct? Okay.
Just what y'all approved in court last time, so then we present them as consent items in next court. So agenda item 2024-11 was moving money from miscellaneous expense line item into the Falls City Library, and that was to pay for additional costs to the summer program. The next agenda item, 2024-12, was to move money out of the expense line item into the book line item because of the cost of additional books going up. Line item 2024-13 was to establish the budget for Senate Bill 22 money for the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Grant was funding, or Sheriff's Grant was $66,674. And then the forfeiture fund is bringing in $146,356.77, a total of $213,030.77, which is for vehicle equipment upgrades from the grant revenue received and certified of the Sheriff's Department and Commissioner's Court, March 26, 2024. Final budget amendment 2024-14 was to establish a 2024 budget for jail security upgrades from grant revenue received and certified of the Sheriff's Department by Commissioner's Court on March 26, 2024, in the amount of $283,326, and the upgrade cost being the same.
Thank you, Tom. Information on those. We want to discuss if we want to pull any of those, we can do that on item number 15 and to consider and act on.
Will the consent agenda be presented, be approved as presented?
Okay. Second, Commissioner Rosales?
Yes, sir.
All right. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Item number 16, we'll have updates from our commissioners, starting with Commissioner Dupnick.
Okay, last week, or 2 weeks ago, rather, we attended the LEPC meeting in Floresville at the
Show barn.
show barn, whatever they call it there, and All the county judges were in attendance. We even had OSHA there. They were going to give us a presentation too, but there's some things that are changing, so we'll find out more about that. I think this week they're having an airplane class, about airplane crash class in Floresville, and we're going to have one here in June, I believe, in Karnes County. Other than that, I've had some phone calls about M1 of the Institute of Burn Ban. They feel it's getting close again, and our judge and I were talking about that this morning. I guess everybody heard of what happened in Geo, and Judge and I, we talked that night, and we put out the HyperReach notification. And for those that don't know, HyperReach is our reverse callback, our notification program that we have. That takes care of the whole county. The only way you can get notified of that is if you sign up for it.
And tell people how to do that, Shelby. It's been a while since we visited that.
You go to the county website and look up where it says HyperReach, and then you click on that, and there you'll see two applications there. One's in English and one's in Spanish. You fill it out and you submit it online. Or if you have to, we have to have a cell phone number, and we'll help you get yourself registered. But it's a callback. You do that, then you can opt if you want to receive a phone call, or you want to receive a text, an email, or all of the above. So it's optional, but it's one thing that when we have a bad weather coming, it always sends out that weather alert on your phones as well. We even plan to use it as, I think HR is going to use it as a call to notify employees of different things as well, especially if it's,
Bad weather.
yeah. And other than that, the one roads that I was talking with Mr. Shockman with his issues, as well as County Road 182, where they're doing some work on it on the cross 72. That's all I have, Judge.
Thank you. Commissioner Lucy.
Okay, we got on County Road 228, we applying base and working on all the drainage ditches and general maintenance in precinct 2, and County Road 254 and 253, I believe, are coming up along, and had calls about burn ban, usual calls, trash, speeding. That's about it.
Commissioner Rosales.
We continue working on County Road 266, continue working on County Road 290. We're rebuilding County Road 249. It's 3 miles long, and the general maintenance throughout precinct 3. That's all I have.
And Commissioner Geisler.
So the salary committee had really taken up a lot of my extra time here. So I devoted a lot of time to that. I did get out and see some roads, visited with Road and Bridges engineer on upcoming plans for the next fiscal year. But the salary committee took the lion's share of mine.
Thank you. Item number 17, discuss acknowledgement of personnel changes. This is all departments throughout the county. We have a new hire in the Road and Bridge Department with an equipment operator 1, local guy. Personnel change, Jennifer Kale went from part-time to full-time. Tammy? Good. Where's Tammy? She's there. We did lose a couple of folks. One, the tax office, Dakota, went searching for more money, and we wish her luck. And Christian Acevedo and Maintenance Tech 1 and Road and Bridge. Nobody's retired, but we are currently hiring part-time tax office deputy clerk, 2 Road and Bridge Maintenance Tech 1s, veteran service officer. Have we posted that yet? It's on there, isn't it? Okay, if you're interested in that, I do have a couple applications, so I'm going to be setting up interviews probably 2 weeks. Next week, Tom and I are going to be with budget amendments. Not budget amendments, budget workshop. Karnes Wilson is in the juvenile probation department, needs a case manager and a ropes facilitator. Sheriff's Department needs a maintenance man or woman. We need sheriff patrol deputies, 7. And Sheriff's Department security, that security is for the buildings. That's going to be an 8 to 5 position, security type position. So if you're interested in something like that, call me or call Bonnie. That's all I have on there. Item number 18, payment of bills.
Okay, Court, I sent out the bill list on Thursday, I believe, so the total is $834,399.87. The big ticket items, on the general fund, the EMS outfitted 3 of their new vehicles. On the road and bridge, the total for their expenses between the 3 is $688,887.27. There was no medical bills this go around. I know that's been a concern of Commissioner Dubnik, so nothing else out of the norm. And I did send an email out because the bill list will now be with the agenda when the agenda is posted in Civic Plus. So we're pushing bills back to Mondays at noon. It's in order for us to get the judge's office to list by Wednesdays at 5 o'clock to be uploaded. That's how we're, it just would like to pull the other agenda items. Don't be pulling the same way.
Questions on the bills?
I'll make the motion to pay the bills, approve paying the bills as presented.
I'll second.
And that bill does include the towing bill. Hopefully we get that. So thank you for clarification on that. Yeah. Item number 19, acknowledge Commissioners Court will meet on June 11th, 2024 at 9 o'clock in the morning over in the multi-purpose room at 210 West Calvert, Suite 150, Karnes City, Texas 78118. Another little announcement real quick, especially for the commissioners and for the court. On the last meeting in June, we are going to bump that up to the Friday before the last week. And I don't have that date off the top of my head, but there's county judges and commissioners, South Texas County Judges and Commissioners Court is having their conference down in South Padre. I'm not sure how many commissioners are going to go, but if we have more, I'm going to post notice of possible quorum for those that are going. 21st. And so
Good.
that's,
Judge, also on the 1st of June, we're having that resource fair at the Shelbourne. It's
do we have one today too? Do we have one today too? Oh, today's the meeting. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bonnie.
This is where if all the county residents are invited to attend and find out what services are offered to the
It's
county
really a
residents.
very informative deal, and the gals that have put that together and the folks that work on it
Saturday.
is really, really informative. So item number 20, need a motion to adjourn.